Welcome everyone to Digital Marketing 101 for nonprofits. These are small business basics, but they are customized for you as nonprofit organizations. It's presented by the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center and hosted by the City of Mississauga. A little bit about Mbac. We are the Mississauga Business Enterprise Center, and we are here to support our local organizations, our businesses, as they start and grow their business. We're kind of that central source for information, guidance. We offer entrepreneurship programs. We have a summer company that's coming out for our young people, as well as we work within the ecosystem of Mississauga and beyond to partner to bring certain programs and information forward to you. So if you are looking to contact us, you want to know a little bit more, mississauga.ca/Mbac is really the only website you have to remember. And when you go there, it'll take you over to our Future is Unlimited campaign, where you have a ton of resources, some of which I am going to talk to you about today. And something new, please follow us on Instagram. These are another way to connect with us beyond the website. We are at Mississauga EDO, and you can find the link here. I think Amanpreet's going to drop it in the chat, but the futureisunlimited.ca is our campaign site. And if you scroll to the bottom, you're going to find all the links to our social media. And we really do hope you'll follow us and connect with us there. We have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, Twitter, and now Instagram. So this presentation has come to you in partnership with our community group here at the City of Mississauga, and an amazing organization bringing together and supporting you as the not-for-profits. If you are a volunteer-based community group or not-for-profit organization or club in the City of Mississauga and you are not on the list, you should be. So this is a link here. Amanpreet also will drop this in the chat for you, and there are multiple benefits. So if you don't know about it, please head on over and have a look, a valuable resource. Another resource is Edge at Sheridan. They have a lot of events and support for not-for-profits, social enterprise, as well as business owners. You can find more information about them at edge.sheridancollege.ca. Digital marketing, I'm just going to show you the overall ecosystem of what this is. Whether you have a physical presence or you're just online, this is what it looks like. You have a business, you have an audience. They often have questions or they want to find information out about you. So what we do is we put together channels. Sometimes you communicate through traditional like print, emails, we have social media, we have a variety of different channels where we communicate our messaging through. And how is that delivered? Through various things like blogs, articles, videos, and things like that. And it reaches those people to answer those questions. And the intent is to provide them with the answers and the experience that they need. And at the end of the day, you are able to grow your organization, whether it's through financial, through volunteers, however that is, but you can be a profitable, a successful organization. So that's digital marketing in an essence. And what I'm going to do, it's a very big and complex ecosystem. I'm going to break it down into 7 simple steps for you. This translates across profit or not-for-profit organizations, and it's just to keep us focused in what is often a very moving, changing environment. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a business plan or an organizational strategy, whatever that looks like. It's your guiding document for your organization. And then target audiences is really important. So we're going to spend some time on that, setting goals. And this is focused on your marketing. What are the right channels for you? Because there's a variety of channels out there and you can't be everywhere all the time. So how do we decide what are the right channels for your organization? And we're going to talk through some strategies for that. And then we want to deliver that content. And what does great content mean? And at the end of the day, we need to know if we're successful. So how do we track performance? And does it start at 1 and go to 7? Yes, but we have to think about all of those steps along the way. Tracking performance, we have to know right at the beginning so that we can put things in place. And we're going to get into it and we're going to talk through those 7 steps. So why is digital marketing so important? This just came out in January, so last month. There is a growing population, many of which are on the internet, and many of them are mobile phone users, and most of them are also social media users. Now, why are these important? Many of you know this intuitively, but if you are looking for funding or you are looking for resources, make sure you collect those stats that help you justify your strategy. And this just came out quite recently, and it's one of these such resources that you can look to. So nonprofits, what specifically you would want to take those general stats and also what is happening in the nonprofit world. Well, 87% of people, and this is a survey that was done for marketers, and they've come forward and said the 87% who donate from social referral typically will do it again. So if you get them the first time, the repeat will happen. 71% agree that social media is effective for online fundraising. 84% of Facebook users share to show support for a cause. That's a lot. So if you're looking for influencer marketing or you want to get on that bandwagon, know that people want to be on social media and sharing this. Over half of people who watch nonprofit YouTube videos will donate, and 30% of not-for-profits use Instagram to raise money and awareness. And I put that low number in there because I think it's a missed opportunity, and I think it will grow, and you guys will learn some ideas on how to do that today. So let's get started with a business plan. Whether it's an organizational document or a business plan, it still has very similar structure. You want to have a document, a guiding document that talks about your organization. How are you operating? How are you managing things like your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as well as your financial projections and cash flow and things like that. For your digital marketing plan, there are sections within that are not more important, but we're going to focus on those to help us build out our digital marketing plan. And that is going to be the goals and objectives of your organization. What resources do you have available? That's money and people. And what's your timeline to achieve these goals? What is your revenue strategy? Are you doing membership? How are you going to get the money? And then you want an overall communications or marketing strategy. That's that general guiding document to tell what channels you're going to use overall and why you want to do them. Digital marketing plan gets a little bit more specific because you're also going to things that you're going to do offline as well as on the digital. So that's your business plan. And some of your organizational goals might look like this. And it's the same for-profit and non-for-profit, but a little bit different. So we both want to have a sustainable revenue source. And how are you going to do that? Is it through donations, membership? Do you sell merchandise, or do you do events? And you also need resources such as the people who help. So in the not-for-profit world, we have volunteers, employees on the other side, and then you have staff or board of directors. And then you need to build awareness of your cause. Now, it's awareness of your brand or your cause, whatever that looks like. It is still, generally speaking, building awareness of your organization. So those are organizational goals. So now, to prepare us for the digital marketing plan, we need to understand your story. So it doesn't matter if you're a club, if you're a sports club, a music club, you support seniors, you make pottery, whatever that looks like, you all have a story. So make sure that you know what that is. So who are you? What do you do? What do you offer? What is your goal? And why do you do it? And when do you do this? Is it a certain time of year? Is it something you're just getting started with? Remember to always keep that timeline in mind. Where do you serve? Do you serve just the local Mississauga area? Do you serve nationally? Do you serve globally? Another very important question. And then how are you going to do this? How do you get involved? How do you deliver these programs? So this is important exercise. And even if you've been doing this a long time, I do encourage you, and you probably do this in your annual meetings anyways, is just to step back and make sure you're clear about this, because it will influence what you do for your digital marketing plan. Because it can take up a lot of time, and you want to make sure that that plan is going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So now the target audiences. These are the people that you need to communicate with, and that are very important. And one of the first steps that you need to do to help fine tune your target audience is a stakeholder map. So a stakeholder is anyone who is part of the success of your organization. So they're going to be obviously your donors and your recipients. It's going to be internal and external. There's staff, there's volunteers, competition, media, all of these people. Put it down somewhere on a map as a high level. It doesn't mean that you're going to be communicating with them all the time, but you want to have your eyes on who they are, because at some point, if you have to go back or something comes up, the ability to stay agile is having access to all that information. So start with a mind map like this, and then if you can build it out into an Excel spreadsheet with key contact informations, that becomes an incredibly valuable resource for you. And they pretty much fall into three buckets, right? You have your philanthropy bucket, recipients, donors, and members, your internal group, and your community at large. And the reason we put them into buckets, because they will typically have similar messaging, and it just helps fine tune the when and the how and the what you're going to say, and even the where. So getting a little more specific now, okay, so now you're coming up to either it's a campaign, or you've decided primarily there's a certain group within that you need to communicate the most to. And that is probably your donors on a lengthy time, just it's an ongoing thing. It could also be internal groups. So you might have to have this a key section, and you have to do it. But for digital marketing, where it's outreach and it's external and it's public, it will probably be fine-tuned mostly to your donors on an ongoing basis. So if you decide that you want to fine-tune and for this digital marketing plan and say, okay, my focus right now is going to be my donors, and I need to build out a target audience persona. And that gets a little more granular. Now, this might change if you decide that you want to do media outreach. You will want a persona for the media team. If part of your strategy is to build communication internally, you can have a target audience persona for them. But say, for example, you have donors or members, and you say, I have to develop a persona for them. You're going to actually create a picture. You're going to get into very details. What's the ideal age, gender? Always be careful with gender, and it is only an example, but it does help you visualize who your audience is. Some of the key things here is also attitudes and values, especially for the not-for-profit organizations, and what kind of lifestyle do they have. And you may think that this is an excessive exercise, but I do encourage you to do it, especially in digital marketing where it's very noisy and you have to get right through and provide relevant, personalized information to them. You need to understand what motivates them, what challenges they have, why do they even support you, what kind of causes do they typically invest in, what kind of media do they use, is there another audience you need to consider? Those are some of the guiding questions that you need to ask yourself. And even if you're not sure if it's relevant, just put it down and document it somewhere, because it may come up. And this is a great opportunity to brainstorm with your internal team as well. So where do you find this information? Some of this research, you either have primary or secondary research, and some of it takes longer than others, but know that the information and the opportunity is out there. Focus groups are a good one. If you have your ideal client or ideal donor. And if you're working on a campaign, a short-term campaign or whatever that is, and you need to collect information and insights, focus groups work well. Surveys are more general. Sales data, which would be more like your donation data. You can have one-on-one interviews. And then there's the secondary, which is your online research. Go on to different forums, find out what people are saying, do Google search. There's a variety of ways to do it, but please spend some time to get to know who you need to communicate with. So now we're going to set some goals, and this is specifically your marketing goals. The other ones were organizational goals, and now what do we want to achieve with our marketing team or within this digital marketing plan? We need to know what organizational goals first you want to support. What does success look like? How are you going to evaluate success? And who is your audience? Because we just did that persona exercise. And if you do, and this works for campaigns or your general digital marketing plan, because you might decide that if you take these guiding questions for a specific campaign, it works as well. So you can relook at who that target audience is. And what is the timing? When do you want to achieve this success? It makes you accountable as well. It gives you some motivation, and then you are realistic in what you do. So part of underneath the goals is you're going to have objectives. So objectives are, they need to be SMART. And really they just answer these questions. They're very specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're timely. So if you answer these questions, you're ahead of most. So that's where I want to make sure that you do this before you even get into what kind of social media that you're going to use. Marketing goals. This is just an example. You will get a takeaway from today and you'll have these slides, so you'll be able to reference these again. So if you are doing an exercise of what is your marketing goals, these are some things that you can work through. If you answer the why, who, what, when, and how, you're there. So an example of what that might be is to increase awareness of your organization. This is why you want to even do digital marketing in the first place. Who are you going to target? Maybe it's media and donors, and you need to raise a certain amount of money for a cause. That's what you have to do, and by a certain time. And at the very bottom is, how are you going to measure success? Some is ultimate goals of what you need to achieve, and some are performance indicators along the way. Make sure that you do this ahead of time. And at the end, you'll result. You have to think about this to do the planning. Another column you'll be able to see here is if you're trying to increase membership. Maybe you're a new club and you need to increase membership. This is just an example of some marketing goals, or maybe you need some human resources. Maybe you need volunteers to sign up for an upcoming event. So that gives you a breakdown of what marketing goals may look like for your organization. So let's get into channels. What is the right channel for you? There's 3 different sections of what, or topics or types of channels to consider. One is owned. And when we talk about an owned channel, that's where you have full control over the content and the development and style of that channel. And primarily it's going to be your website, or it could be one of your social media pages. Owned is key because of that level of control, and especially in your branding and your messaging. You want to make sure you start with that, and then paid. So paid is supplements the owned. And I always say, make sure that your house is in order before you invite people over. So paid is driving traffic back to your owned channels, which is where you have the ability to keep them on board. So just make sure that you have your brand strategy and everything in place before you start supplementing it with paid. And then the other one, many of you know what that is, and that's earned. And in the not-for-profit world, that's really important. That's media pickup. That is reviews, that's shout outs, that's shares by other members, or what that is. Those are things you can't pay for. It has incredible value, but you can't control that. But it's ideal, is what you want. So focus on owned, supplement for paid, and find strategies to be able to get the earned. So how do you know what's right for you? Now, these are some critical questions. I would say go through this exercise before you decide. Now, if you are new, this is a great time to do it to figure out what channels that you're going to use. If you're an existing organization, this is a time to sit back and do a bit of an audit and answer these questions to make sure that you are on the right channels and doing it in the right way, because it's much better to do fewer channels and do them well than to be everywhere all the time. And be ruthless. If you know you only have so many resources and it doesn't work and you go through this checklist, you might want to not to get rid of a certain channel, but just make sure you've really thought it through. So the first question is your audience on it? If they're not there, there's no sense in being there. Trends, what's the trends in the industry? What are the stats saying? What are other usage? Is this platform going to stick around, or is it not going to stick around? Budget and resources is really important. Do you have the time and money to be able to manage this channel? And regulations would be something within your industry. Are you allowed to have that channel? What kind of content are you allowed to do? Because if there's a lot of regulations around it, you may have to think about it, as well as things like email marketing. You've got CASL compliance and GDPR and things like that you have to consider. And then finally, effort to impact. How much time and effort do I have to go through to be able to get the impact that I need? And that last one is really important because some channels don't require a lot of effort to drive a lot of impact. And you may go, okay, so I only have to do this once a month and I just have to manage and monitor that. That's okay. But if this channel, the algorithm, my audience expects me to be posting 3 or 4 times a day, oh, can I handle that right now? And maybe you say, I want to have this, and maybe it's on the roadmap for later. But effort to impact is really important for you. And owned, earned, and paid, do this for all of these. So some examples of channels to consider. I put website in the middle because I truly do believe it is the hub of everything. And we're going to walk through some examples of a website. Your blog sits on your website. Doesn't mean you have to have a blog, but that's where it resides. And it is a good it's a good resource to have if you have the capability to keep up the content. We also have social media, which is obvious, and there's a lot of channels out there. Please don't be everywhere. Do your evaluation and figure out what works best for you. And we're going to talk through some key ones today, not all of them. But we will talk about it. Google Business Listing. This is one that I talk about. That's remember, effort to impact. Once you have your Google Business Listing up there, there's not a lot of work to maintain it, but it's really crucial to driving traffic and awareness and being able to be found. So make sure if that you do have a physical location, that you do have a Google My Business listing. And then there's other directories to consider as well. Messaging apps. Are you utilizing these in the best way that you can? Because there is a trend towards people wanting to use chats. It's expensive to get it started for some custom chats on your website, but Facebook Messenger is something that's built right into Facebook and it's free. Email marketing, we know that the stats continue to show email marketing is popular. There's things like forums where you can go and start to engage. Maybe it's not something that you want to do, but it's there as an option. And then I put PR 2.0 because it's not just media releases. In the world of social media and online audiences, influencer marketing is a really important part of your public relations and getting that traction. How that looks for you, there's a whole nother strategy, but influencers are another option. And then there's also the other that sit outside of the traditional, and these might be niche media outlets. They might also be event platforms. It's incredible the amount of, which isn't so much engagement like on social media, but Eventbrite, for example, where you guys all registered, is a platform that generates a lot of interest. It's a search engine for us as well, and people find our events there. So think about that as part of your strategy. Volunteer directories, put it out there. Make sure if you are looking for volunteers or on a regular basis, Community services is another example. It's another directory to make sure that you're on if you are eligible. And then there's partner websites. So make sure that you've talked to your partners, and do they link back to you? Is this a channel that you can discuss partnering with? So this is just an example of some of the channels. What a channel mix might look for you could be something like this. Now, we talked about the website. It's key. Pretty much everyone here should have a website on some level, even if it's just a single page. You don't need a blog, but maybe you've decided that blogging is important. You have a physical location, so you have Google My Business. Email is definitely going to be something strong for you. You've decided on that. You have picked 4 channels, but oh, YouTube, not right now. Maybe you're not ready. So you've kind of put it off to the side, but it's something you want to do maybe for the next year. And then you've made a note that you want to do digital ads. So this would be part of your strategy and what you want to do. And then how do you leverage this to reach your audience? Oh, forgot about Twitter there. So I'm going to walk you through a few of these channels, and hopefully it will inspire you, give you tips and ideas on how to leverage them for your organization. So website design, the reason I picked these guys, it's a clean, it shows an example of what your organization could do, but I just really wanted to pull out some of the elements to consider whether you're building a new website or you're evaluating your current website. So if this is your home page, for example, you will have content there. You will also have a footer. So this, because I can't show it on the screen, the footer is right at the bottom. And that's where you're going to have links to different things beyond just the main navigation. It's going to have your main contact us. It's the privacy and policies and things like that. You also might have your social media links like these guys do down below. Now, the other section of a website is way up at the top. Now, you might not have this secondary navigation, but if French, for example, if that's something that you're required to have, you want to have it as part of your website, but maybe it doesn't want to be on the main navigation. Media too, we know to look for those media links, so it doesn't need to be on the main one, but it is important for you, so you want to make sure it's there. And then the blog is up there. And then there's a search field. I will say, please, if you have the opportunity to have a search field somewhere, I would put it into your website, because many people just don't know where to go, and attention spans are less than they used to be, and they just want to put in a search field. So that is one other navigation in your website. And then we have what we call the main navigation, which typically will have your logo and then different key sections, one of which is who you are. So remember, we talked about the brand and the story and preparing for this. This is why we have to do this, because it needs to sit on your website. So when somebody first finds you, they know exactly who you are. So now, whether or not these words are exactly what you use, you don't have to replicate this, but it can be also say about. That's another typical word that's used. So who they are, they explain who they are. They have some pictures that link off to other things. They also have a sub navigation on the left side that has different things about their team, their partners, and newsroom, podcasts, and all the things that represent who they are. And it's an exercise to go through your website to make sure you've hit all those key points. So who we are, and then what we do. So really important to explain when visitors come to your website about really what you do and what you're all about. So this organization has different programs in the process and explains it. It's visual. It has the right hyperlinks. It also has a section at the top, and it's really important that every page that you have on your website, that you have what we call sort of a search engine optimization. It's what Google's going to look for, and it has those first 2 or 3 sentences that explains to us what this page is all about. And then another section is where we work. So this organization works across Canada, and so they're going to build it out with the provinces or the different areas. And then they have a link from here to the other pages that are specific. So we want to think about drilling down for them for the content. Using pictures is really important, pictures that represent what they are, and then drilling down further. Now for you, it might be where you work within the city, within different organizations. Maybe you only offer your services to people in Ontario. And so you could even have a map with different areas in Ontario that maybe link off to another page that's specifically for that area or that chapter or what that is. But telling people where you work is important. What you can do, this, if you're driving membership or donations, people that are wanting to support a cause need to know how they can support your organization. So make sure it's very clear on your website that you tell them how they can support you, whether it's volunteering, signing up for a membership, donating, attending an event. Make sure you have a main navigation and then the subsections underneath. And then having a donate button always helps too. Any questions on website? We're good? Okay, now the blog, I pulled out this as an example just to show everyone during this time that of COVID, there is a question about what kind of content do you share? And this organization has a blog, and they have some good examples of things that you could think about or be inspired or get ideas. And this is how you learn what other people are doing, is to visit different websites. So they talked about what they're doing virtually during this time to offer solutions. They gave their holiday hours over the holidays. Information is important. Giving Tuesday is an important day for many organizations, not-for-profits. They talked about what they were doing, and they also did a shout out appreciation day to the educators and annual report. So I think most of you have an annual report. Using the blogging platform to be able to share that is really a good way to do that. And then telling stories. People want to be inspired. They want to know what impact you're doing. So pull out stories. Obviously, you have to go through all the permissions. And sometimes this is a bit labor intensive, but if you have the opportunity to do it, it can be really impactful. Now, I highlighted this one so that you can see the sections of a blog to consider. So the top part, you'll have the title. The title's really important for Google and your visitors to find out. So make sure that title is relevant and has some keywords in it. And then that first paragraph is what Google's going to find too. And what that says, it's a highlight, a summary of pretty much what the rest of the blog is about. So make sure that you consider that first paragraph in an SEO way. And then every blog needs to have a feature image. This shows up in your social. So when you share it out on social, you will see a picture, and it's proven that if a page, if an article, anything out on social has an image, it will be the readership increases. Then you have your explanation within the body, and you say what you want to say. And then at the very end, you want to have a call to action. So make sure you have a call to action, a goal for every single article, every single web page that you want to do. And you make it easy for your viewers to take that call. So you're inspiring them, you're informing them, and now you're making it easy. So they've highlighted what they want to do, and then there's a clear donate now button, and it's created as a button, so it's easy to see and also really draws your eye down to that. So that is the structure of a blog. I also put a link in the bottom if you do want more details about writing blogs. There's a whole guide there as well. If you're just getting started or it's time to refresh your website, there's a lot of website templates out there, so you don't have to start from scratch. WordPress, I've just pulled this one out for an example, and there's not-for-profit templates. There's also Squarespace, there's Wix, there's Weebly, there's other site builders that might be easier. So if you're just getting started, you don't have a lot of technological background or graphic design background, but you want to try and do it yourself, this looking for a template works really well. You may have a one time fee on some of them to purchase the template, but there are other ones that are free. So I just wanted to give you an example of what a template might do. It helps you guide you through the process. It'll tell you how to do a who we are, your approach. So this is what you do, or how you do work with people. There's a place to put partnerships in. Your contact form. Always make sure that you have a dedicated page for people to be able to contact you with all the information that they need to know about your organization and the expectation of when they contact you, when you're going to respond to them. And then how can they make a gift? There's a lot of options out there to make it easy for people to do. Think through, have a look, get the advice where you can, but there's availability to get things online whenever possible, especially during this virtual time. So now we're going into Google. The transition into Google is relevant because it's really important as that next step for your website and your organization overall. Google has a nonprofit section, a lot of resources for you, but whether you're not for profit or a profit business, there's some things to consider and you need to do when you're going through your website design or even afterwards. You want to make sure your Google My Business account is set up. You want to also check out and make sure you have set up Google Analytics to track performance. If the website's the hub of everything, it's going to be the key metrics that you want to measure. You have to track it on your website. The important thing here is that you have a little piece of code that you need to put on your website before you can even start tracking the data. Don't wait to the end of the year and go, how did our website perform? And go, oh, we didn't put any data. It is not retroactive. So as soon as possible, make sure you have your Google Analytics set up and your tracking code is put on that. And then there's other ones as well where it's Google Tag Manager and extra things. But at the very least, make sure that piece of code is on there. Search Console is another thing that's free by Google for everyone. And that helps you with sitemap, putting your sitemap to make sure Google finds your website. And it also will help with developing keyword strategies. And it's just a management dashboard. And then there are other tools for not-for-profits. Through this link, when you land here, you're going to find a few things across the top that you guys have available. Google Earth and Maps. If you are doing things all over the world and you want to put it on Google Earth, there's a place to do that. YouTube, nonprofit programs. We don't get time to get into it today, but there's some great resources there for you as well. And then G Suite, if you're looking for emails to set up, and G Suite also has, so mine is Laura at lauradunkley.com. I have an email there. lauradunkley.com is my website URL. It's very professional. Everyone knows my website there for my blog, but it's actually run through a G Suite account. So you can do the same. And so have a look because they do have specials for nonprofit organizations. And then they also have ads, an ad grant. And I did check. It is available in Canada. How long it lasts, I'm not sure, but have a look and see the resource is available to you. Now going into Facebook, it's a major platform. Many of you, I had a look see at some of those that registered. Many of you do have Facebook. Many of you said you use Facebook. So it's probably a platform for most of you to have a look and spend some time seeing what they can do and spending time developing content in your audience. Because 88% of donors who have given through Facebook, charitable giving tools, say they're going to do it again. So it is one of the tools that they offer. 93% of NGOs in the world have a Facebook page. So remember we talked about trends and what's happening out there? That's one of those trends that you think if other people are doing it, then it's a possibility for you to do it too. And then the average Facebook followers for a small nonprofit organization. Benchmark numbers like this, it doesn't mean this is yours, but it's always nice to bring forward benchmarks to give you a goal. Facebook, how do you set up a Facebook page for your organization that's optimal? I want to run through some of the opportunities because when you do set it up, you say that you're a not-for-profit organization, which gives you specific style of Facebook that other organizations wouldn't have. So a homepage, when you're doing this, make sure some key tips across the top. You have a cover photo that represents who you are, a high resolution, it fits, it's there. Pick a lifestyle. Please don't put your logo up there. Make sure you have usage of that picture and it represents who you are. You also have your logo that's there. You have all the information, the call to action, because it's not for profit, says donate. And then you have the about section that you need to fill out. And the about, go through every one of them. And if you haven't visited this in a while, please revisit it. Facebook is always changing and there's a few things that they have updated. So go through, make sure all your information is accurate in your about section. And then you have fundraiser section. I didn't know about this, but fundraisers, you can have people that want to raise money on their birthday for your organization. Make sure you have this. If this is something that works for you, it is available. Live video, you want to work with Facebook algorithm. Live is a really key thing. They will bring it forward for you. And then they also have a place to store all your live video. Now, that does take a bit of resources and planning, but know that Facebook will support you in that endeavor. And then the more section is events. Powerful. Facebook events is a way to, you could boost events if you're going to do ads. It's a way to get in front of people. It's a comparison compared to Instagram, which doesn't do that. Facebook does events really well. I know we've had success with that. And then also there's some really powerful metrics sitting behind Facebook when it comes to events. So this, if you're doing events, virtual events, they do live events, online events, and they've pivoted during COVID. So have a look at that and evaluate if that's right for your organization. And if you do have groups, they will show up here as well. So that's an example of an optimized Facebook page. And some of the features Facebook offers is Messenger, and which is your chat, which is free. They also have it so that, and I know many of you are resource strapped or you're not sure if someone can manage it, but you want them to know that you've heard them. Messenger allows you to put in automated questions or answers if somebody asks, or at least it notifies them. Maybe you're saying that you only respond to messages between Monday and Friday, 9 to 5. Then they'll get an automated message through Messenger. So make sure you have that set up. Groups, if it makes sense for you to do groups, consider the management time and the administration, but it is a feature, it's available. Events, live video, posts, and they also have stories. So that is another way to get in front of people. Just take that regular post, turn it into a story. It's engaging. It only lasts 24 hours, so it doesn't have to be huge as part of your strategy in ongoing content, but it is a way to get in front of people because, as you know, the stories comes across the top of people's feeds. And then advertising, here is your ads guide. If you want to know how to do ads, they have the ongoing guide, and it's very comprehensive. Also, what you can do if you want more specifics on how well your ads are doing, you can drop a pixel into your website and it starts to track it. If you want to learn more about Facebook ads and Instagram ads, tomorrow's session talks about that, Amanpreet, right? So if you want to drop that link into the chat for them, that's the time to really get into the how to get this done. And charitable giving. This is for you guys. This is definitely for to help you guys. They're really about trying to promote social impact. And this is where you can do fundraisers, fundraiser stickers, live video donations. You can learn more about that. And then Instagram, owned by in the Facebook family, they also have the ability to do live donations. So that is the URL to learn about that. And let's jump into Instagram. Instagram is one of the ones I'm going to talk about because it is popular and it's happening. And if you can manage Instagram, please consider it for your organization, but consider it. and why we've put some of these up, and these are some of our local organizations, and I wanted to highlight that just to show you some examples of what you should consider when you're doing Instagram.
Laura, before you go
Yes.
into Instagram, there's a question about, can you comment on whether to use Facebook or your website as the main focus of where traffic should be directed?
Um, I'm I would, if you have a website, I encourage you to do your website rather than Facebook. And the reason is because ownership comes at different levels. Facebook still owns it, but it's almost like you lease the Facebook page is one reason why. Whereas your website, that's yours. That's 100% yours. You have a hosting platform, but you can always take your website to another hosting platform. So I do say use the website because it will have everything. It's one address that people have to remember. It's it's all your content, and because not everyone's on Facebook and everyone has access to the internet, and you have so much in the way of what you can offer, as far as donations, things like that, tracking results. Um, so those are some of the key reasons I believe that website is the hub, and you drive traffic primarily to the website, and then you encourage engagement and building of your community on Facebook. Now, when they're over there, there's another opportunity to get them to donate, but that's a secondary opportunity when they're over there. You may only have people that come to your Facebook and that community and they engage with Facebook, but website is for everyone. So you want to make sure that you give them an opportunity for anyone who's new to come to your website first and then decide what platform they want to engage on with you. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, Instagram. Here we go. When you do Instagram, this is a visual first platform. So not as easy to manage as Facebook, and the fact that you only have one URL that you can drive traffic. And this is the other thing. So driving traffic back to your website from Instagram helps to build out that strategy, right? We're still talking about the website being your hub. So you're going to have conversations and you're going to have engaging posts. But if they want to see more of what you offer and the extension of what you offer, because you're not going to share everything on every post, on every platform, you want to make sure that this goes to either your website, or there's also the link in bio that many people do. I err on the side of doing it, sending it to your website or a specific landing page, because again, you own it. And Instagram really likes to send it back to a proper website. There's been times where they have shut it down, where it's not a real website and it's just a link in bio. So it's safe, it builds your brand, it helps with your search engine optimization, it helps with your tracking if you send it back to your website. Doesn't mean you have to, because I know it's much easier to use a link in bio, and it does work well for now. So pick what works best for you, but remember you only have one link that you can use. Fill out your profile, that it explains who you are. This organization's all about mountain biking, and then they're saying to visit online to register to be a member. That's their key goal. They're giving the link below. You know what they ultimately want you to do is to sign up for the membership. And now they're building out content to inspire you, to inform you. And I love their grid strategy. It's cool. So one of the posts that they have offered is as an inspiration is a picture of someone mountain biking out there. Happy face, clear visual. It fits within Instagram's picture in the grid. It looks great. And they have a mention that what they want you to do, their call to action on this one, is to tag them. They're really trying to encourage user-generated content to get everyone else involved, because they know they can't be everywhere. And that's the whole idea of social, is to get everyone involved. So this is a great post. And then preparing for the annual event, they put faces out there. So now they're encouraging people to go to their annual event, and they've put out on their social faces. So when people come, they know who these people are, and they become faces to recognize. So I'm looking forward to following their Instagram moving forward. Definitely a good job. And here's another one that I wanted to mention because I found this by searching on their location. So if you have a location, make sure that you put it in here because it's really powerful. Google social, really local search is something that they encourage you to do, and it will help people find you coming from different ways. So I found them, and then this is what showed up. Port credit, viewed the information, and it highlights some of the pictures. And another thing these guys do is they use influencers, and they have a strategy where, right, they're having other people share things, tag them, and it showcases and inspires people. And this is a way to get in front of people and having your whole organization or key people within your organization bring forward content. Make sure that you do discuss this. There's and the policies around it, you have the permissions, all of those things have to be part of your governance, but know that it's out there and it is a way to get more content for your channels. So some tips on using Instagram. If you haven't converted it to a business profile, please do it because you'll have more insights and the ability to connect it. There's a lot of advantages to do it. So as a not-for-profit organization, turn it into a business profile. Make sure you know how you're going to be using that link in bio. Highlights are there. Remember the ones across the top? That's the ones too that you can have your stories, which are content pillars, which we're going to talk about quickly. Hashtag strategy. There's no simple way to do a hashtag strategy. You just have to go out and figure out what hashtags make sense for your organization. What are other people using? Make sure the hashtags are being used in the way that you want them. Don't just put it up there without actually testing the hashtag, because what you might think works might be being used in the wrong way that wouldn't be good for your image. Tag your locations, plan your grid. That's really important. It doesn't mean not everything has to go into your grid, but you want it pretty. You want it to look consistent. It can be fluid, but you want to have either a certain filter. We'll talk more about that in our social media session, but plan that grid ahead of time. If you want to share something and it doesn't fit into your grid strategy, put it out in a social or create a reel and just don't add it into your grid. Cross promote, again, one content piece could be in your grid, it can be in your story, you could create a reel. Scheduling your posts, I'm going to talk to you how you can do that for time management. Make sure you go out and you like, engage, and follow, and you discuss with other people. Don't just push out your content. It's meant to use it as an engagement platform, leverage your influencers. Videos, and then there's advertising opportunities through which can be managed through your Facebook account. So those are some tips for Instagram. And Twitter.
Sorry, Laura, could you clarify what the grid is for some?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I'll go back. Here we go. Whoop. This is the grid. So if you look at the bottom here with all the pictures, this is what we call a grid. So their grid strategy so far, from what I've seen, they've just gotten started. They have a landscape picture for inspiration or an action or an outdoor picture. Then they've had the face of the person that's going to be at the annual general meeting. They have an action picture. So they've gone black and white color, and they have this visual image in and of itself. When I look at that grid, I go, oh, that looks really nice. Instagram is a visual first, and that is the grid that you want to work on. If you don't want to get fancy or you can't do photos all the time, you can use graphics. And maybe you decide that you're going to do a graphic with a certain font, and then you do a picture, and then a graphic with a certain font, because you have to figure out your content pillars. We're going to talk about content later, but this is the grid that you want to focus on. Okay. I will run through here. Instagram tips. Twitter does not as much of a visual first. These guys are all about sharing news and content. If you're using Twitter, many of you are, make sure that you go in and have a look at your profile and make sure it's optimized. Your logo is there. It fits properly within the circle. Please don't have it so that it's cut off or anything like that. Make sure it's not pixelated either. You want a high res in there. And then the image itself fits within it and it makes sense for your organization. You have filled out the profile to explain who you are. Throw in some emojis if it makes sense. If you're using a hashtag, put it in there so that they can click on it and follow the conversation, and then have a link over to your website. When you're posting, if you haven't been into the native app for a while, this is another feature that was quite interesting, is they have some new things that are available. Your Twitter ads can be managed right from here. You have access to your analytics, and you have access to Media Studio, a place where you can develop some media. It's very similar to what you would see in Facebook. And then your actual posts, you have things like emojis. Now you want to make sure it follows on brand with what you're putting in, but if it does make sense, add an emoji. You also have a place to do polls. This is engagement as well as a little bit of research. And a key thing on the bottom is you can select who you want to reply to this for your posts. So it can be either people you follow, people who follow you, everyone, or only people you mention. This gives you a bit of control over the conversation. And then they have GIFs right there at your fingertips, and you can also schedule content right in the native app. And this is just an example of what your analytics is going to look like. It will show you your impressions, your profile visits. It's free. Have a look periodically, please, as part of your plan. Do milestone reviews. Don't just keep doing your digital marketing and not evaluate your success. Track them. I'll talk about that in the plan, but please do track them along the way. And this is available free to you. Twitter also has advertising. And to learn about this, you can check out that URL. An example some of you have mentioned, it's like, what do we do now that we're all virtual? This organization, as much as it is a for-profit, they do align themselves with a lot of not-for-profit organization, but mostly as an inspiration. They leveraged this hashtag to inspire their community to keep running. When COVID hit, all their stores went down. They said, no way, our running groups have stopped. Well, we're not going to stop, right? Running is not canceled. Leveraging a hashtag for something like this is powerful because then it's their own hashtag. I do believe it's their own hashtag, but it's one that they collectively have been using. And now the runners have started to inspire each other. They did on Instagram and Twitter. Just something to consider in this virtual world. So LinkedIn, we talked about effort to impact. Typically LinkedIn, and I'm just going to mute for a second. LinkedIn doesn't always take a lot of effort. Because at the very least, though, make sure you have a LinkedIn page. Once it's set up, you just have to periodically share content. It doesn't take a lot. But if you're going to at some point look for volunteers, look for philanthropists to support your organization, look for partners, you should have a LinkedIn profile. And they have a lot of resources for nonprofits. The resource is nonprofit.linkedin.com is the URL. If you haven't done that, please have a look and see if that makes sense for you. And it's free. It's a way to engage with employees, build your brand, publish, and share. As a volunteer, I know when I put it in my volunteer section, I will say what volunteer organization that I have volunteered with, and it will show the logo and it will link over. So it's a way to get leads to your organization and build awareness just by having a page. So, and it is a platform to publish and share content. So Habitat for Humanity is one that has done a good job with this. They shared out a post about asking for poems during COVID, something they could do virtually, and they put it out here through their through their LinkedIn page, and also added some hashtags, something LinkedIn offers as well. And then the botanical gardens, what they did too is they leveraged this channel to share content about thank you. Now, what this would do in the planning process is this is probably not the only channels that they put this out on, but it's definitely an appropriate channel to put this content out through LinkedIn. And then if you have an organization or you're part of a larger organization, something like this is how this would work. Is Big Brothers Big Sisters of Canada have developed what they call showcase pages. So now they can showcase the different organizations in the different areas. Email marketing. I'm going to run through this only because I'm realizing what time it is. 25% open rates. These are some stats just as inspiration to keep your email marketing up. 42% say they prefer to hear from a nonprofit via email. It's not a high percentage, but they do like that. I think we're losing out a little bit to social. However, email marketing is still really powerful. Monday and Wednesday is a good time to send your emails. Make sure you have consent for your list. This is part of Castle. Express means you have full opt-in express consent and they can opt out at any time. Implied means that you've done business with them. Maybe this is a donor and they have given you money, they've given you their email, but they don't necessarily want to be on your email list, but you have a certain amount of time to try and get them into that express consent so you can still email them. If they tell you they don't want to be on your list, you have 10 days to take them off that list. And what this is for marketing. A CEM is your commercial electronic messaging. And so that is communications with them. If they tell you they don't want it, you have to comply and take them off. That's part of Castle. There are other compliance ones, but that's key for Canada. And don't take my word for it. Please, you are responsible to make sure that you understand the rules as they may change, and the link is down below. Email tips. When you're trying to get people to sign up, right? Like that's really important. I mean, it's not much good having an email list or an email marketing campaign if you have no one to email them to. So how you have to give them a reason to sign up. What are you going to give them? What is that you're going to share, and what do you promise to deliver on? Is it, and how often? Is it monthly? You're going to do news and updates, member only information, whatever that is. Give them a reason. Make it easy to sign up. Make sure there's forms on your website using third parties. Send a link in a news if you have an email signature that you send out as an organization leader. You might have sign up for a newsletter as a call to action there too. So that makes it super easy. Personalize it using third party like MailChimp. Squarespace has their own email. There's Constant Contact. There's a variety of them out there, and they have the ability to segment lists so that you can target certain content to certain lists and engage with them. There's quizzes and surveys. Make sure it's mobile friendly. Everyone likes to read it on their mobile these days. And make sure it's hyper targeted and relevant. If you are sending something and you have an organization that is in Calgary and you're sending them everything about Ontario, they're probably not going to want it. So make sure that you segment and give them the information that is relevant to them. It's proven that this works. It gets through the noise, really important. And there's different types of emails, right? If they've just signed up for your membership, welcome them. Send them a welcome letter. Send them inspirational stories. Learn a little bit about them. Ask questions. Ask for donations where it's appropriate. Just know that there's a whole list of things beyond just pushing for donations. And make sure that storyline makes sense. And a lot of them can be automated. So the plan doesn't have to be really complicated. The list on the right is like a true plan. But even if you answer that who, what, why, when, how, and where, you will get yourself to the point of having a plan put together. So let me show you some key things to remember. You need a team. You can't do this on your own. But maybe you are for the beginning. Maybe it is just you and you have to consider this. But to scale, let's find some ways to get some resources to help you. And who are those? They could be contract consultants. Maybe you do have some funding to hire someone to develop your plan. Maybe you don't have the resources or skills to be able to do it, and you want to hire someone just to put a plan together, but and get them to teach you how to do it. That is a key way to leverage certain resources for that. And then you also have as needed people. So maybe you have a contract consultant that comes in once, and I'm just using this as an example, but you have a contract consultant coming in, does the plan, puts governance and stuff in place, and maybe once a year comes in to help you review it. And then you're going, okay, I have internal people and we can manage that regularly, but I need some key pieces of content. Maybe you need a video done or you need some writing done. Those just-in-time people are something that can be built into your plan, and those would be freelancers or potential volunteers. And where do you find them? Part of the support in learning how to do it yourself is things that we can do here at Mbac. Edge Sheridan, as we mentioned before, has a lot of programs out there. There's a variety of things that are for-profit, not-for-profit, that are freelancer sites, directories that you can find things from. And you can also ask amongst yourselves. You can look for local colleges. Maybe somebody wants to do some volunteer work and you want to reach out to one of the colleges to see if they know of anybody. But these are some of the things that you want to do. Think about when it comes to your resources on who's going to get this done. Part of your plan. The other part of your plan is your governance, a playbook. What are those guidelines? And when you're managing employees or volunteer, or you just need to have control over who's doing what in the escalation process, put together a social media policy. I do have a link down there. I do have a template as a guide if you ever do want to look more into that. Editorial calendar is the frequency. It's how are you going to manage all of your content? So there's a spreadsheet that you can use if a spreadsheet is what you like to do. There's a template available as well. Customize it and make it work for you, but it is a starting point. And then when it comes to scheduling, we want to stay as efficient as possible. Hootsuite is just one example of a platform that allows you to schedule to a variety of different social media platforms. It also has the opportunity now, I think there's a paid, I'm not sure what the not-for-profit discounts are, but they do offer some there. It does allow for, you could get some volunteers or employees to put content up there, and then there's approval. It doesn't get published until someone approves it. It is a way to control some of the content, but also to get some help. And Asana, it's a free online tool. If you don't want to use a spreadsheet and you want to plan content, you can have multiple people join this project and plan out your content. And Facebook Business Suite, we do have a recording of this. It will be up on our website soon on how to use Facebook Business Manager, which is part of the Facebook Business Suite. And we talk about Facebook Business Suite in here, but it is a free tool, a dashboard Facebook offers to manage both Facebook and Instagram for your analytics, your advertising, your event posting, and then even cross promoting amongst both of these channels, as well as managing your direct messages. And Plan That's another tool. It is a paid version, but remember we talked about your grid. Here, if you want to see what your grid looks like before you post it out, you can actually plan it in here. It'll show you once it's published, and it'll show the ones that are in queue, so you can change it around if you want. It also gives you strategy ideas. So if you are a church, a community group, it's giving you ideas of what you might want to put into your grid. It's always hard coming up with ideas, so whenever possible, it's nice to have that. So great content. What is great content? There's a lot of options out there. It has to make sense for your channel, but within your channel, there's also some other things to think about. So think mobile anytime you're creating that. Make sure your pictures or images fit within that platform. Like Instagram, you don't want to be cutting off any heads. It fits within your grid strategy. Facebook, whatever hashtags are being used, you want to make sure you do that. It's relevant to your audience. It is engaging. It makes sense. It has to be timely. So put your plan in place so that don't put your holiday hours after your holiday is finished. Always think about stories, look for the emotional connection, and be as unexpected as possible. Now, during COVID, some tips though on messaging. There's a whole list of them here, but I want to mention that even though we're in this critical time, we don't want to stop posting, but we do have to consider some things for messaging. And just as some guidelines, we need to be creative during this time. It is not allowed a time for complacency, and bring your team on board. Find ways to be inspired and get creative on how you're sharing content and the type of content. Always be compassionate. Be consistent. Even if you can post once a week, decide to post once a week and then do it once a week. But be realistic in what it is, and don't do it once or twice a month and then leave it for 3 months. Right? Like, this is just make sure it's consistent. Make sure you're responsive, you're listening. If someone's responding to you or commenting on a post, you want to be there and make sure you're responding properly. Support your community right now, and you need to be agile and organized. So use some of those tools. Many of them are free up there. Maybe you haven't used them before, but you want to make sure that you can respond as this climate is changing, and you need to stay organized. So those are some tips on how to do your messaging during this crisis. And make sure you stay on brand. Remember, we talked about right at the very beginning, who are you? If you haven't had a chance to do this, this is where a graphic designer could come in handy, even if you have one volunteering or on staff, or you use a certain tool and do it yourself. But branding's really important. And World Wildlife Federation has been consistent. So you see that their logo across the board, the same kind of pictures, the highlights offers a little splash, their grid is consistent. All of it has the same feel, the same colors, and the same typeface. So that is a bit of a branding strategy. There's a link below if you want to learn more about branding. But at the end of the day, create as part of your plan a bit of a strategy board. And this is just an example. So a mood board kind of talks about what kind of things you're going to share out on content. And this is kind of that grid idea, but really it's just the mood of who you are. You have your color palette off on the side. You've got your strategy, your channels up at the top. You got a key hashtag that you're going to use, and then the topic pillars down the side, and then what you're going to say on each platform. That's it. Maybe your digital marketing plan is as simple as that. And this was done on Canva. So it's something to consider. Topic pillars are part of your planning process. Really, for all of you who are here today, it's probably going to fall under one of these topic pillars. You're going to think about inspiring, you're going to educate, you're going to promote what you do, you're going to showcase the impact that you have, and then you're going to find ways to engage with them. I put some examples down here, but really at the end of the day, it's going to fall under these pillars. So when you're planning your content, maybe write down some of those ideas. Canva, if you're doing graphics, oh my goodness, it's a great platform. And we do have a webinar on how to use this. Canva for work is they have a Canva for nonprofits available. And the kind of content that you can create, it's an online graphic design tool, and it's template driven. So you can have examples, there's photography, there's elements, little icons. You can create it animated. It's amazing. Really spend some time and go over there if you haven't done it already. Infographics are great for nonprofits. You can do flyers. You can do social media graphics and even change it based. You don't even have to know what the right size is. You say, okay, I want an Instagram post for my grid. You just drop in the picture and it sizes it right for you. It's really great. And if you're doing your annual report, there's even templates for doing that. So tracking performance, content is key too. Just to go back to content, it's a whole discussion. We have webinars on how to develop content. I squeezed a little bit in here just as ideas and for your plan, but each of these sections has a whole webinar opportunity, is a whole learning. What today's session really is trying to bring it all together. So know there's resources beyond just today's session to dive a little deeper. Tracking of performance is where we know if we have been successful, right? And where do we get those metrics? We talked about Google Analytics, remember, for the website. Google My Business also has metrics, social media. We have advertising reports. We have third party. Oh, I put music in here, but it's third party for different platforms. Email campaign reports, social mentions. Is that social mention is actually a platform? Google AdWords campaign results. We have surveys. I mean, the list goes on. Just make sure when you are doing your plan that you know what metrics you want to track and what methods you're going to use to collect that information. And so some of those metrics, they're going to fall under these 4 sections. You're going to build awareness. You're going to have people consider if they want to volunteer or work with you. You're going to have those metrics where you're going to decide, yes, I'm going to volunteer. Yes, I'm going to sign up for a membership. Yes, I'm going to donate. Key things are going to be part of whether it's content or action items within decision. And loyalty is how often do they come back? And these are just a list of a very few key metrics. Some are going to be performance as it goes along, and some are going to be ultimate goals. So how did I reach the right people? Did they open it? Were they interested? Did they view a video? Did the ads convert? Did the online donations, did they click that button? That's a key one. And did I get reviews, endorsements? The other one would be media pickup. If media was part of your strategy, it could be another one. So Google Analytics, we have a webinar on this as well, but dashboards are where you can see everything of information you can collect. Google Analytics is the traffic to your website, right? How do they behave? Who's coming to my website? Did they convert? Did they do what I wanted them to do? Are they just leaving it? Where are they coming from? All of that information, you can even fine tune into when it is and compare this year versus last year, this month versus last month. And then what area, what social networks referred them, what pages are they viewing, and how long are they staying on it? It's incredible the amount of information, which is why a website is key in making sure your analytics is set up. So that's it. Key takeaways. Focus on your customer, and your customer would be whoever your key audience is. It's your donors. It's if you're going to look for volunteers, focus on their needs first. Do fewer, bigger, and better channels and type of content. Make sure that your brand message is clear and it's consistent. Be strategic, which is why the plan today, this overall 7 steps, we're trying to be as agile using just the 7-step process, but make sure everything you do is intentional, that it drives up to your overall marketing goals and it drives up to your organizational goals. And be consistent with your branding, be consistent with your messaging, and consistent with your posting and engagement. Segmentation is getting the right message to the right people. So get to know where they're coming from, learn about your audience, really fine tune that target audience, and deliver them the messaging that they need to hear. And that's just continuation of we know it works, especially in emails. And then personalization. I'm going to leave you on that note. Personalization equals the maximum enjoyment. And what that enjoyment word to extend that is your positive experience for the people when they get to your channels or when they engage with you, to minimal time to search for things. They get to your website and they can't find the information, they're going to leave. They get to your social media and they're going, oh, they haven't been here for 6 months. I'm not going to engage. So personalization equals the maximum enjoyment to the minimum search time. And it works. So that's it. You've got 7 steps. I have 5 minutes, but I will stay on longer for questions and answers. But remember, just to recap, you want to have that organizational plan in place so that you have that guiding document to support your digital marketing plan. You have to know your audiences, set marketing goals so that marketing can be successful and that your organization knows why they're investing in marketing and why you have that plan. And you're very clear on your goals. You're picking the right channels where your people are, and channels that you can manage, and you're going to make the best effort to impact ratio, and you're going to do great content. What that is it's going to be inspiring, it's going to follow the pillars, it's going to be on brand, it's going to be COVID sensitive, and then you have to find ways to track performance so that you know you're successful.
So some questions about how to increase followers on social media and how should we set these goals?
Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing. Okay, how to increase followers on social media. Oh, that's such a big question. You guys have to come to the Social Media 201 and we'll talk more about that. Some tips on making sure that if we're going to use the website as the hub of everything, that's where, remember, we talked about personalization, minimizing the search. It's going to have all of your social media links on there. So if you are driving people to your website, they're going to go, oh, they have great content. Now I can follow them or check them out on Instagram. So you've engaged them, you've put easy links from your website over to your social channels. So that's one way to do it. You can do advertising. Facebook allows you to build awareness and Facebook likes on your page. So that is one advantage in the Facebook world. You want hashtag strategies, really important for social, for Instagram especially. And so you want to go in and make sure that if you've discovered that most of your audience is using 2 or 3 hashtags, go follow that hashtag and start engaging with them. If you have an email list, many of you who have been doing this a long time, email was one of those key channels, right, that we've been doing for a long time in the not-for-profit world. You have an amazing owned list, right? Like this is a gold mine. Send out a campaign that, hey, we're on here. Try and get them involved. You can do, I'm not sure how contests would work for you guys, but that is a way that some people leverage things like that to do it. Influencer marketing, we didn't even touch on influencer marketing because it's a whole nother world, but that's a way to leverage their network to start building followers. So the list goes on. That's some I hope can be helpful for you.
I guess on that note, they wanted some direction on setting goals and targets. Where should they start for that?
For goals and for your whole digital marketing plan?
I guess so. Yeah.
So it goes right back to the very beginning. Is make sure that you go through your organizational, make sure you know what you need to do. Now you have your overall organizational strategy, but you're going to have your annual plan. Maybe you've decided that you need to build membership this year. To be a sustainable organization, you need to have a membership level of 100 people, say for example. So if you're going to have to do a marketing goals, you need to do everything towards that. So part of it is going to be general awareness goals. And we had those metrics, remember the funnel on the side? So you're going to have general awareness goals that you need to kind of do all the time to get your search engine up. You make sure you do an evaluation of your profile and things like that, and ongoing content. But then certain type of content needs to be posted organically and then boosted. So if those key things are to drive membership, one of your goals is going to be create content. It's going to be reach and impressions on those particular content pieces. So under each goal, you're going to say, I need to get traffic to my membership page. I need people to sign up. I need engagement and reach through these channels on my membership content. And it funnels up, so it's very focused on building membership. And every time you have a goal, you want to build out your marketing goals underneath that goal so it makes sense within your overall marketing strategy. It's hard. If anyone ever wants to meet with me to go over that, I'm happy to do that. Some people take courses for years to figure out how to create right goals, and that's key. If you don't have that as knowing why you're doing it, what you need to do, it will be hard to build out your tactics. So please, if know that I'm a resource if anyone wants to go through their digital marketing plan to help them fine tune those goals and metrics.
Another question here, if you have a low budget and a small team, what do you recommend in terms of managing marketing tasks? For instance, posting on social media, etc.
Yeah, well, I say start in the most when I say be consistent, that's consistent on based on what you have available to do. So maybe you're a one-person team and this is a volunteer time even for you, and you have a real job on the side. So you have to kind of do this on the side of your desk. My most important thing is to go back to that plan, find out what's the most important thing that you need to achieve this year, and then create and then focus on that. And that's where I say do one thing and do it really well for your organization. And then put that plan in place so it's manageable and use the tools you need to use to make it happen. Canva is an incredible way to create really high quality graphics. Use a tool like Asana for planning, start doing scheduling. Maybe you decide that Facebook and Instagram are those only two platforms that you can handle right now. If you use Facebook Suite, it's one place where you need to log in to be able to manage everything, and you can do it on your phone. So that's where be realistic in what you can achieve, go for the most important goals, and use those tools to be able to manage the creation of the content and sharing of the content. But I hear your pain for sure.
I think that stemmed a lot of questions about the costs involved. Can you share some insight with cost involved with social media marketing campaigns?
Yeah.
Or how to plan for the costs as well, I guess.
And that goes back to find out what you have available. And I know it's not typical, but in the digital marketing world that we live in, and I've noticed a trend and a change in how this happens on how to plan budgets. So when I've worked with clients in the past, is they say, well, give me a plan and I'll go and find the money. Well, I usually like to say now, it's like, you tell me what you can handle and I will develop a plan to meet your budget, and then we'll grow that budget and evaluate it. So if you know you only have $200 a month to spend on marketing, first you have to have all your plans in place. So there's the startup costs, which includes building your website. It's a startup cost to optimizing your profile, putting the plan in place, and what the general sense of what my social media is going to look like. And then how do you manage that moving forward? And so that startup cost has to be separate. And that's where I say, if you have funding to get started, create a plan. That's really where to put the money, and that plan to teach your volunteers or low budget on how to move forward with the management, because the management piece, there's tips and tricks on how to do that on a really low cost way, to be able to be effective as a not-for-profit, even to be in maintenance mode. And then the advertising, and that can be done by volunteers, with maybe some oversight by somebody more at the more senior level or internal person. And then you can say, okay, well, we have $100 extra to boost things, to add to advertising. And we go, okay, so then we have volunteers managing all the consistent content, and then maybe we put together $100 to boost it in ads. That's where a strategy that has worked well for low budget entrepreneurs as well as nonprofits. And then also look to some of the resources I shared. Google Ads, they have grants, right? There's numerous resources out there to get help with that. And then find those volunteers that have the experience, that are willing, that really believe in your cause, and they have the skills, and they say, let me volunteer, let me do something. I don't have the money, but I'm fresh out of university. I really want to help. And then you can say, hey, that's great. You're in charge of taking care of social, because it's very time consuming. So if you have someone willing to do that, that's pretty great.
Laura, I know you mentioned the grants for Google. Are there, there's a question here, does LinkedIn have grants? Do you know?
I spent a lot of time digging on a lot of these channels to see what was available. I couldn't find information on LinkedIn. I don't think so. You will have to, once you set up your organization, you might have access to more information, but it wouldn't surprise me that LinkedIn doesn't have grants for that, but you would have to dig a little deeper once you get into it. Just trying to see if anyone put anything in privately to me. let me just repost to all panelists in case I missed it. Google, Google Analytics, somebody asked about a webinar on that. Yes, I'm in the process. We're we're pretty a small team and have had to be quite agile and resourceful ourselves, which is why we do have some ideas. Amanpreet and I have worked closely to be. We're on a shoestring budget here as well, and so we do have some tips. So to let you know, I am also video editing all of our webinars, and we have 3 key ones that I should have up soon. Google Ads and Google Analytics are 2 of them, and they're very much how to. And so I will have that. I should have that up today or tomorrow for anyone who's interested.
I do see the other questions as more technical. I think, Laura, you can follow up maybe with the list of hosting platforms some people have requested. Or I think you mentioned a couple of different platforms as well, Wix, Square. So I think they just wanted a list as a follow-up.
Yeah, and I can send some of those out. Most of them do, and actually you could probably Google site builders. They're called typically site builders. So there's WordPress. I should really do a website one in one of these days. So there's key ones to look at. So there's WordPress self-hosting, which means you have to have a WordPress template and everything, and it gets hosted on somewhere like GoDaddy or Bluehost or whatever that is. And then WordPress also has its own hosting platform. One's WordPress.org, one's WordPress.com. So those are 2. If blogging is going to be a key part of what you want to do, and you want to expand and you have a lot of plugins and different things that you want to do, WordPress is awesome. That's really what it was built around, but it is open source. You have to make sure that you have some maintenance. I do caution you, if you do not have someone who's going to constantly be updating your WordPress site, it might not be the right platform for you, because I've worked for some volunteers for not-for-profits before, and they had someone build it and then it was neglected. And they had a whole bunch of comments. There were so many comments, it actually crashed the platform. So you please make sure that that's part of your strategy if you do WordPress. If you have something like and I can send out links to this too. CMS Intelligence is the one that did Bethlehem House, which is how I knew about it, because I know those guys. They're out of Niagara. They are a contained system. It's actually the system my LordDunkley.com is on. So it's a closed system. They're really great for support. There's a way to evaluate what you want to pick. So so they're an option to go for something like that. And then there's things like Squarespace and Wix, Weebly, all of those. And what that is, it's very simple. They have not-for-profit templates. It's very basic. It's not even expensive to host on their platform for the whole year, and it's an option. So there's kind of 3 key platforms to consider. And if anyone wants answers and more details on how to select the right website platform based on your resources and skills, I'm happy to help with that as well. Someone was recommend a website to help create a logo. So someone's looking to create a logo. Canva. Like, oh my goodness. So if you're doing something quick and easy, Canva has kind of a logo opportunities. You can also go to somewhere like Fiverr or Upwork and get someone there to create a logo for you. And I've known some to be effective in that. I would also go back to the idea of getting a graphic designer on board who's maybe fresh out of university, because they will give you more than just a logo. Because a logo is part of your whole branding strategy. Part of this presentation, there was a link over to a branding strategy. The owner of that agency is a graphic designer. She does know what she's talking about as far as graphic design and branding. And that is the foundation of all your content, your messaging, and we live in such a visual society right now that it's foundational. But if you are trying to do it yourself and you want to do it just to get started, and maybe you do a rebrand in 5 years, Canva is the only one that I know that you could kind of do that, other than the Adobe suites and things like that, which gets to be a little more skillful required. Oh, great channels. Okay, someone's asking about the slide about great channels. Is that the slide about all the channels that I showed as an example? And I could probably show that to you again. Hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, so someone did. So see, this is where we need to find a platform for these graphic designers. Discounted marketing graphic design for nonprofits. Okay, because you can't, see, yeah, it's hard to shift. There are any graphic designers or marketing people on the call who want to um, volunteer or share their services, drop it in. Someone here just did, and he is does discounted marketing and graphic design. Is this organization here? Yeah, drop it in. Let's do some networking. Okay, hold on. I know we're past time, so anyone who wants, are you okay to stay on? There's a few people that have stayed on. Um, and help startups. Okay, anyone who's willing to help nonprofits, but a startup, maybe a startup nonprofit. Oh, here's another one. Provide discounted design and web hosting. So there is a place we should do. Yeah, I should see about this. If anyone does offer discounted, we don't typically do this. We're working on trying. Um, I will drop what I can in here. I can't promise that this is going to go out in our follow-up. It's not something we normally do. But it is something we're looking to try and facilitate an opportunity to connect with our people in need. I will say if you there's a platform that we can find that you can add your like a directory to. I think Charity Village does one that where you as designers and marketing support could put your information on. That would be something that maybe I'll shout out to everybody. I could not find something. So if anyone does know a directory that does link up designers and digital marketing people with not-for-profits, I would love to see that. Um, so yeah, there may be a few in here. If I miss it, I apologize because it's a bit of a it's not something we normally do. But send me an email if you do offer discounts to not-for-profits and you are a digital marketing person or graphic designer, and I will see what I can do. And saying that, if there's no other beyond the networking, if there's no other questions or information comments, we will probably shut it down. Okay. I'm trying to get a few through. You guys are awesome. This is great. And it is a tough time in the not-for-profit world when you're especially right now where we're not running our programs and we are trying to still engage with our community. Think about ways you can inspire people, share things, get your team involved. If you maybe you do soccer and you have a soccer club and you want to get the kids doing well, or the adults, or maybe you end up getting one of your coaches to do little drill sessions and you put it on video. It's a way to still share with your audience.